Okay, so with this tutorial, I'm going to make fractals, or at least what looks like fractals. So I'm going to go File, New, and this time I'm going to go with US paper, 8.5 by 11, and I'm going to change that to 200 pixels per inch instead of the default 300. And I'm actually going to rotate my canvas 90 degrees just because I like that look a little bit better. And then I'm going to make a marquee, an elliptical marquee. But before I do that, before I actually drag on a marquee, I am going to create a new layer. So think about that first before you do anything. Do I need a new layer? And what I'm going to do is just click and drag and hold the Shift key down so I have a perfect circle. And then I'm going to actually change my background color to something different, something like that. And I'm going to create a gradient over this marquee, and it's going to be in a radial gradient, white to blue. And I'll go down here. I'm going to click right here in this spot, drag down, so that I create a shape like that. So there's the white radial, and it fades out to blue. And if I go select, deselect, you'll notice that it has some dimensionality to it. It's got a little 3D quality to it, which is what I'm looking for in this case. And then I'm just going to add a stroke. It's just going to be a very fine 1 point or 1 pixel stroke. And I'll click OK. There we go. Now I'm going to get my Move tool. And what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to grab a copy of this. And as I've mentioned before, I can drag this layer down to the new layer icon. Or I can do a Control J, and that will copy. Or I can go Alt, click, drag. Drag off a new copy. And then I'm going to transform this. So Edit, Free Transform. And then I'm just going to scale this down a little bit. I'm going to hold the Shift key while I scale. And then hit Enter. Or the check mark. Then I'm just going to place one of the circles right there. And then I'm going to do a Control J this time. And create another copy. And another Control J. And drag off a third copy. There we go. But your design should be different. But what I want you to do is just follow along so that you understand this. And essentially I'm just creating some different kinds of shapes here. So maybe I'll try with a brush and see what happens. So I have created a new layer. And I'm just going to open this up. And gosh, I don't have many brushes at home, do I? What's that one? What the heck? What's this one right here? Oh, I'll see what that one looks like. A little too faded for me, so what I'm going to do is a Control Z to undo, and we'll see what this one looks like. Maybe my color needs to be a little bit darker. Maybe that would help. I'll go back here. There, something like that. And then I'm going to move this layer down so it's behind Yeah, maybe one more. There we go. Yeah, so I'll do something like that. You can create whatever you want to create. So if you want to use custom shape tool and find yourself a different shape, you can do that. It's really up to you because each one is going to be slightly different. I'm just going to scale this down a little bit. Don't forget to hold the shift key. There we go. Something like that. Now, what I need to do next is grab all of these, shift, click. I've got all of my layers except for the background selected. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to drag it into this folder down here. And it essentially creates a group or a folder. So I'll just drag it in there. Now I've got this, and I'm just going to call it original. Now, I'm doing this in case I need to go back and make an adjustment to my shapes here. If I don't like it, that is. The next step is to actually make a duplicate of the original. So I'm going to drag it down to the new layer icon and let go. Now I've got a copy of it. And I'm just going to hide this original one. So it's kind of saved. I don't have to worry about it if I wreck this one. And then what I need to do after I've created that copy is right click and merge the group. So it's going to flatten it onto one layer. And I've lost my folder, as you can see. Now I can start creating a fractal. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to transform this image and duplicate it and rotate it, and it's going to get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and rotate until I get this kind of a horn look. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a Control Alt T. Now Control T will do a transform, but a Control Alt T will actually duplicate the layer for me as soon as I make some modifications up here in this bar. So I'm going to change these numbers to say something like 96%, and then the width 96%. So I'm scaling it down 96%, which isn't a lot really. And then I'm going to rotate this. I'm going to see what 15 degrees looks like. Oh, it's just going to rotate it that way. You see how it rotated? What I need to do is move this little target. And I'm going to pull the target down. Oh, I'm just going to find a random spot, maybe something like that. Now, if I rotate it 15 degrees, see where it's rotating it from? And maybe I'll rotate it 30 degrees, see if that makes a difference. Yeah, that's better. So I've rotated it, but instead of rotating from the center, it's rotating it from down here. So I'm going to hit the check mark. And then I'm going to do Control Alt, and this time I'm going to add Shift and then T. So Control Alt Shift T. And I'm going to keep doing that. I'm holding down Control Alt and I'm just tapping T. And I'm just going to continue and continue and continue. Many, many times. So I'm getting up to number 98, 99, 100. So I've done that 100 times. It depends on your design how many times you do this. And then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go all the way back to the bottom, and I'm going to select that first layer, that first merged layer, that one right there, the original. So I'll hold the Shift key down, click Original, and then I'm going to right click and merge layers so that they're all on one layer. There we go. Super. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to do a Shift, click and drag, and then Enter. And I'm actually going to make a fractal out of this fractal. So again, I'm going to do a Control Alt T, and this I'm not going to scale it first. This time I'm going to grab that little target right there. Oh, you know what? Before I do that, I'm just going to show you. See where it's rotating from? So I'm going to drag this down over here maybe. And then I'm going to scale. And as soon as I scale, you'll see that I'm going to get another copy. I'm going to scale this, let's try 92% this time. 92%. And then I'm going to scale this 30%. Yeah, sure, see what happens. And then I'm going to hit enter twice. And then I'm going to do a Control, Alt, Shift, T. And then you can see what's happened here. I've gone off the stage, which is okay. I can get that back. And what I'm going to do is just go back down, select that first layer again, Shift click, and then I'm going to scale the whole thing. Control T, and I'm just going to hold the Shift key down, scale it. I could actually leave it hanging off the stage if I want to, but I'll do that so you can see what's happening here. So this is my fractal, and it depends on how far I pull that target away and the degree of rotation, what it's going to look like. So there's lots of things I can do with this. I can continue to be creative and scale this down and do another fractal of a fractal of a fractal and see what I get. I can also do a Control J and then drag off a copy like so, something like that. Oops. Drag off a copy, hold the Shift key down, so it's going to stay in the same plane, and Control J, slide that one off. And what I could do is bump the opacity down. So I could bump this one down to say 30% and this opacity down to say 60%, like that. Drag the original up. So I reverse the order and have my fractals fade away. So lots of opportunity for creativity and originality. You don't have to do the circles. In fact, I recommend that you follow this tutorial, but then you come up with your own little design and make it yours. Okay? Excellent.